Hello, very good evening to you, and welcome to the locker room on this wet Wednesday. Well, I'm kind of saying Wednesday night, but I've not been outside. I just thought it would sound good because it starts with a W as well, Reagan. You know what I mean?
Aye.
As well. So, we're joined tonight by Tino from the Celtic Exchange podcast, and Reagan as well. How are you, Tino? We've not saw you for a few games, but it's good to have you back on.
I'm doing good, Michael, and thanks to you and Regan for having us back on. And it's a game to look forward to, isn't it? It's a strange one for Celtic to go into a final game in a Champions League stage without any real pressure. There's always pressure at Celtic in some way, but in terms of qualifying, we've already done the hard work last week, so should be a game to enjoy. And I'm looking forward to chatting it through with you guys.
We're here until 7 o'clock, so it's just the usual nonsense from me. Get your comments in. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch. Well, they used to call it Twitter now, but it's called X now, and Twitch, whatever that Twitch means. I'm getting very old for these platforms, Reagan. I'll get in there before you comment on my hairstyle or whatever. But yeah, let's get into the game. Aston Villa against Celtic, Battle Britain, and all that kind of razzmatazz. Kick off tonight at 8 o'clock, live on TNT, and we'll be back on at 10 o'clock with a reaction show as well. Reagan, I was just saying to Tino, obviously the battle Britain and all the rest of it, but it's a funny feel to the game because obviously Celtic's qualified, but the headlines has been kind of like off the park, if you know what I mean, in terms of Jota coming in and Tierney maybe coming in before the end of the window, if not in the summer as well. So it's a different build up to the game.
I definitely, because who would have thought this time last week that Maeda would be suspended? You've got Kyogo not there anymore, and then you've got Jota back. So it just shows you what difference 7 days can make. But I think the pressure was off after last week's big win at Celtic Park. Obviously, Celtic scored 3 goals and then the penalty miss from Engels. So it was great to be at that match. I don't know if you were there, Tino, but it was very stressful and near the end of the game. But I
Yeah.
thought Celtic deserved to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I was there, and it was as strange a first half of football as you'll see. So
Yeah.
obviously, as you say, the three Kyogo goals. How good would it have been for Kyogo to finish his career at Celtic with a hat trick? But it wasn't to be. And I think all the VAR decisions were correct. You know, 2 offside and 1 was a foul, and that's fine. But 3 goals, 3 times in the back of the net, and then you think, okay, it might not be our night. But then Engels gets a penalty, and you think, well, Engels doesn't miss for the spot, and then he misses from the spot. And the second half was a tense affair, wasn't it? I just, the nerves kick in the longer the half goes on, and you're wondering if we're going to get the job done. But Real Hatate's pass, exceptional pass,
Aye.
and Adam, he played his part. He's obviously not credited with the goal, but he's done enough to see the ball go over the line, and what a moment when the whistle goes at the end. So yeah, up and down night, but all the hard work was done last week. We can now go and enjoy this week.
I was going to say to you guys as well, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they'll get reacts in a way because obviously the game was postponed on Saturday, and so they've not played from like a week tonight. They were at Parkhead, and Aston Villa had a big game on Sunday, so it's going to be quite interesting to see a Celtic. I wouldn't like to say Celtic would be rusty for the game, but obviously they would be well rested because they never had a game at the weekend, Reagan.
I I potentially think it might help the players because they've had that bit of rest and preparation as well. Because if you've got so many games in this period, especially because we've got that rearranged game next Wednesday, I think it might help the players.
Yeah, Tino.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously you look forward to every Celtic game, and I was planning on going along to the game on Saturday, but the weather was wild, wasn't it? I mean, I think you're at it, Michael, calling the night a wild and wet Wednesday, but Friday was definitely wet and wild.
Oh, Friday was.
And
Aye.
so you can understand why the game didn't quite make it for safety reasons as much as anything. But yeah, I think your point stands, Regan. I think it maybe just gave the players a few extra days rest, a wee bit of prep, and allows us to just go into this game full of energy. Obviously, we'll definitely miss Kyogo. We know that Maeda's suspended. Carl Vickers is out, so there's a few really important players that won't be available for different reasons. But I think the guys that do come in, this is their chance. They'll be well prepped, they'll be well rested, and we'll see how it plays out on the night.
Yeah, so obviously if you go on a show like this, Timo, you've got to really watch what you're saying, right? What here, Michael, from James, yeah, you've really got a point there, but I've got a light above me, so that makes me look like I've got no hair at all. And also I've been corrected as well, Reagan. It's Scotland, not British. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a posh boy from Barhead, but there's only one posh boy from Barhead, and that's me. Yeah, a battle of, so Tino and Reagan, I just want you to get your thoughts about, obviously, you were right, Tino, about Kyogo going away and all that, but I'm at the thought that if Celtic didn't qualify last week, I think Kyogo will still be there tonight as well. But do you not think that move came at a very weird time in the window, because you were expecting that move to either come right at the end in terms of like the last day or at the very beginning of the window? But I just thought the timing was a bit weird.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think from the outside looking in, it feels like there must have been some sort of verbal agreement that as soon as Celtic qualify, Kyogo can leave. You know, the manager spoke last week and said that he's been actually looking to move for the last few months and keen to make that happen. Celtic obviously had the hold. They've got the contract and he was tied down till 2027, I think. So Celtic didn't need to let him go. But it's also not a great thing in football to keep a hold of a player that doesn't want to be there. And I think Kyogo's a professional. You know, he would continue to do his job. But the longer you've got a guy who has eyes on a move, then it's not a great position. I think we'll all remember the COVID season, where particularly Odsonne Edouard was a guy who was keen to go. And I know he scored plenty of goals that season, but I don't think his heart was in it. And I don't think he gave his all, if I'm being really honest. And I'm not saying Kyogo would have followed the same pattern, but as I say, when your heart's not in it, maybe it's best for all parties that you move. Celtic are qualified, we get 10 million, Kyogo gets his wishes, and we all shake hands and move on. But it does leave us with a headache for tonight, doesn't it? So Adam Ida should lead the line. We'll get the team probably when we're on here, won't we? And it will be Ida. But if he gets injured, what's the plan? You know, Maeda might have stepped in, but he's suspended. Will it be Daniel Cummins, the B team striker on the bench? We've not really got many other options, to be honest.
John Joe from Shamrock Rovers.
Johnny Kenny. So I think he is unavailable because he played Conference League for Shamrock Rovers.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he can play. I'll stand corrected. So yeah, he might have been a backup, but I think it's looking slim. We'll need to see what happens.
I just wanted to ask you guys as well about I've had a lot of chat and social media the past maybe week or so in terms of either missing that chance, but obviously you had to be in that position to put pressure on the goalkeeper. But do you feel as though Ida's like the same player than he was when they came in at first on loan? Because like he came on and scored big goal for Celtic against Reagan. I think it was Hibs and Motherwell away as well, and obviously that was part of the reason why Celtic won the league. But I guess feel as though he just kind of went off the boil a wee bit. Is that a fair comment, or am I being a bit too hard on the guy?
I think it's because of the price tag. I don't know if you agree, Tino, but I don't think people would be so critical of the player if it wasn't for the price tag. If it wasn't for £9 million. See, if we signed him for £4 million, I don't think people would be saying much. That's just my personal opinion. And I know he's won 12 or 13 matches without scoring a goal, but like, see, when you think even this season, he still scored some very important goals. When you look back to last season, he scored some very important goals. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. And I don't think Adam Ida was brought in for the first choice striker. I think he was brought in to be a very good match for Kyogo. But I think because of that, Kyogo wanted to go. I think Brendan Rodgers is probably threw him in more. but also if you look at this match in isolation, I think it's a good game for Adam Villa to play because Villa, they're probably going to be very imposing at the back, and hopefully he can try and ruffle up a few feathers because I'm led to believe that they're missing a few centre backs as well, Michael. So this is hopefully a chance where he can take.
Yeah, I think Tyrone Mings got injured at the weekend. He's certainly one of the first choice centre backs, so he'll probably miss the game. And I think you're right. I think it's a great opportunity for Adam Villa. There's no doubt, to your point, Michael, it's been an up and down season from him. He's not quite hit the ground running again. But for me, I really like him. I think he's a great striker, a really powerful, fit young guy. And the evidence is there from last season that we know he can do it. We've seen those big goals that you mentioned against Motherwell and against Hibs, and certainly against Rangers in the Scottish Cup final, amongst a few others. He scored in the 3-3 draw at Ibrox as well. He's a big game player. He can do it on the big stage. And maybe he's just struggled to play second fiddle to Kyogo. He's been, having to just kind of kick his heels on the bench and wait for wee opportunities. And he had some starts. He started against Atalanta away, for example. But now all of a sudden, whether it's by luck or design or however it's played out, he's now the number one striker at Celtic at this very moment in time. And I think that in itself will give him confidence to go and have a big night tonight. And particularly because he initially made his name down south with Norwich, he wanted to prove a point. Everyone thinks you come up to Celtic because it's easy and you just want a payday and it's not as much pressure. It's quite the opposite. It's a really unique place to play football. And I think someone like Adam Villa will be out to prove a point tonight. And I really hope he does. I really like him.
Regan, it's going to, obviously, it's a lot of English media and some other clubs from the other side of Glasgow and all that is going to say, well, Celtic's got the work cut out against Aston Villa. But when you look at it as well, if Celtic really get a point or even win the game, it's going to be a massive achievement, not because it's against a Premiership outfit, but if you look at the Kyogo's away, Maida suspended, and Carter Vickers is injured as well. So that's going to be a massive coup for Celtic to get anything tonight because they've three players I've mentioned as kind of like top dollar for Celtic.
I think it's important. It's a very important point you make because I think it would still be a difficult match if three of the players were still available. But the fact that those three players are not there, that's something that you have to put into it as well. But I think Tino makes a good point as well. Brendan Rodgers wanted to go down there with his past experience down in England to prove a point as well. Because he'll want to go down there and say, look, it's not all bad. You don't need to come to just go to the English Premier League to show your quality. You can do it in other places. And I think he mentioned that yesterday. He said you don't need to go down south all the time to show your quality. And I think that's something that he'll do. Well, of course, he'll pay respect to Unai Emery because he's one of the best managers in Europe. He's done well with Villarreal, with Seville as well in Europe. So I think this is a perfect test. But I think it's a test that Brendan Rodgers knows. And I think someday, Tino, that's going to be so important tonight is Schmeichel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've not watched it yet, but I've marked it down to watch. You might see that there's a 20-minute episode, a podcast episode on Celtic TV or Celtic's YouTube channel with Schmeichel. So I'm going to tune into that. I really like him as a character. I think he's been so important and hard to replace a character like Joe Hart, but he's certainly done that. And I say this with every respect, I think he's a better goalkeeper. I think he's a better shot stopper, and he's definitely better with the ball at his feet. And I think Joe Hart would probably admit that himself, if he's been really honest. They two seem to have a nice kind of friendship as well, which was good to see last week. But Schmeichel's so important, but actually all your experience is important on a night like tonight. Callum McGregor had a brilliant first half last week against Young Boys, and he'll need to step up again tonight. He could have moved down south at different times in his career, and he chose to stay in Scotland and stay at Celtic. But he'll want to prove, maybe to himself as much as anybody else, that he belongs at that level. So the experience of guys like McGregor, Kasper Schmeichel, you can look at your fullbacks. Alistair Johnston's been around for a bit now, played a fair bit of European football for Celtic. Greg Taylor, absolutely. Rio Hatate. And then you've got other guys who haven't played so much. Arne Engels, Nicholas Kuhn, Ida to an extent. So there's a mix in this Celtic team tonight of youth and experience, but quite often that can be a very good thing.
And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not trying to get these players away from Celtic, but it's also a good time for the Celtic players and also for the to show the club on a very good line to go, right, well, this is a chance to put the club in the shop window as well. Like players like a Rio Tati, who spoke about Brighton before, who spoke about wanting to go to the Premier League. Well, this is the time where you show it. This is the time where you show them, right, well, I'm playing against John McGinn, I'm playing against Tielemans, who Brendan Rodgers loves at Leicester, a very good midfielder. This is where you show that you can do it.
Yeah, I think of Nicholas Kuhn with that example. The moment he signed for Celtic, I remember rereading his interview when he arrived back in January last year, and one of the things he said that day was that he had real ambitions to break through to the German national side. He's played, I think, a fair bit of youth international football, but never the senior team. And I think if he has aspirations of playing at that level, you need to do it in games like tonight. You need to do it on this big Champions League stage. He'll obviously get another opportunity with whoever we get in the knockout stages as well. But these are the games that his national team manager will be watching. And this is where Nicholas Kuhn, amongst others, Arne Engels, does he want to stay part of the Belgium setup? I would argue, of course he does. So he would want to, step up. Rio Hatate and anybody else. It's a great place for people to showcase everything they've got. And it's the reason why guys like Jota come back as well. Celtic is a really unique and really special place for players to play. And it's not the easy street that some people think it is.
I suppose Reagan makes a good point there about putting Scottish football on the map as well, because you know yourself, to know the English media, I'm not going to mention what stations, but I think we all know there's a famous guy on a radio station down there always talks Scottish football down as well. I think his name's Simon. I can't remember a second name. Haha, on that joke. But it puts Scottish football on the map, so we don't want kind of Scottish teams, whether it's Celtic or whoever's playing Aston Villa, to kind of like embarrass themselves, but also, the fans are paying brilliant money to go down there. But on the back of that point, I was going to make to know about Kyogo's agent basically said, if you want a game for your national team, you've got to move elsewhere. Do you feel though that people, agents and especially agents, can they use Scottish football as a stepping stone? And we all know that the financial side of the game, but do you feel though that they're good using it for stepping stone just in case something else opens, whether it's in the Premiership or Spain, and then they go away there?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, agents only really get paid when their players make moves. So they'll get something when a player signs a new deal or an extension or whatever. But the big money is when the players make the big moves and there's signing on fees involved and different figures like that. So I think as soon as Kyogo changed agent, and I think, did he maybe change maybe October, November, something like that, to CAA base, which is Ange Postecoglou's agency as well.
Linked to Manchester City as well, Tino.
Is that right? I didn't know that. So they must have their paws into a few different players at the top level. And I think when you change agent, the writing's on the wall at some point that you're going to make a move. And so it proved to be the case with Kyogo. I think it is, though, a bit insincere from their agent or his agent to say that he had to move to a top 5 league to play international football, because there's 2 examples staring him in the face at Celtic Park in the shape of Daisen Maeda and Rio Hatate, who continually get picked for Japan, especially Maeda. Maeda's, never misses a squad when he's fit. So I don't deny that it might help Kyogo's chances if he's playing in that league and scoring against like a PSG or Marseille or Lille or Lyon or one of these other, big French sides. But it's cheap to say that it's the only reason. The managers clearly watched Celtic games and saw fit to pick Maeda and Hatate. So it's not quite the genuine reason that it should be. But yeah, agents, I mean, you could do a separate episode, absolutely, Michael, just on football agents and what they bring to the game. But I don't think they're popular characters. They're a bit of a necessary evil. They're just part of the game. Every player needs an agent, but managers don't like them. Chairmen don't like them. Boards don't like them. And I dare say at times players don't like them either, but they're part of the game. So what can you do?
Reagan, Paulo Bernardo was doing the the presser last night actually, and they said we are looking forward to the game against Villa as a top team, so it'll be a great match to play in. And that's a thing because obviously, you know, I know I say at the top of the show this game feels a bit different, but you still want to win the game because as I was scanning to that kick in the comments, it's not a battle of Britain, you know, but there's something special kind of like about the game in terms of like dare see it, Rangers played Man United and your beloved Tottenham the other week. There was something special about the game. Just because it's the neighbours, you know, and stuff like that. So there's something special kind of like about these games as well.
I think there definitely is. I think there's that spice to the game because I think it's more a tie, a one-off game, and I think it's just about proving that the standards of Scottish football is still very good. You go back to for the UEFA Cup run when Celtic went to Anfield and won. Blackburn when Graham Souness is saying that's us won the tie and then Celtic go down there and win. So I think there's so many examples. You can the Nakamura free kick against Sir Alex Ferguson's Man United. You've got Dembele against Man City. So there's all these examples where Celtic have proven over the years that these matches they tend to rise to the occasion.
Tino, I just wanted to take you back a wee minute to what we're saying about you know, Kyogo moving and the kind of like financial side of the game. Brendan Rodgers basically, you know, was talking about that yesterday, and he was saying that it's a great achievement for us to be in the top 24 for the players, and they have been fantastic. They work so hard, but we come here to win. They are obviously asking for there's a good side and it'll be a good challenge. But I just wanted to take you back to that top 24 because obviously, you know, like on paper, you know, if we were playing, if Celtic were playing, or Rangers for that matter, was playing a top side for Italy and Spain, you would say, aye, well, the, you know, Celtic and Rangers are going to get well beat tonight. But it doesn't really, financial side, yeah, comes into it, but obviously in a one-off game, like you saw down the years, that Celtic had that famous win against Barcelona at Parkhead. Tony Watt, don't know what I'm telling. I think he owned a chicken factory somewhere. You know, and the rest of it as well. I like chicken, by the way. So, but you know, it just goes to show like a one-off game, anything can happen.
Yeah, it can do. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only play 11 players. So for teams like Man City and Madrid's and all these clubs across Europe who are paying 80, 90, 100 million pounds for players at times, at the end of the day, it's 11v11. And yes, there'll be, of course, a natural level above in terms of quality. But on any given day, Celtic, you know, can field 11 talented footballers. And if the manager, and we've got a talented manager, and sometimes that can balance things out. And sometimes the crowd, you know, the Celtic Park crowd can balance things out. And they can all give you that extra wee lift. And sometimes you need a bit of luck on the night as well. You know, it's one thing doing all the right things and prepping the right way, but a bit of luck sometimes needs to go your way. So that's where Celtic need to look, because the next round could put us up against a Man City. They've got a pretty slim chance of qualifying. We'll need to see how tonight all goes. But, you know, it could be a City or a PSG or a Bayern Munich or a whatever. You know, there's some teams around us that it looks like we could face. And obviously there's lots of ifs and buts tonight in terms of how all the games go. But you could find yourself against a real top team in the kind of playoff stages. And a big part of it for me will be you want to play your away game first and then get them back to Celtic Park and play the second leg at Celtic Park. If you manage to keep it to a draw or maybe a low 1-0 loss away from home, and then you come back and you've got the home crowd, you've got everything that goes with Celtic on a European night, then you've got every chance. But yeah, all of that in at the mix, you still do need a slice of luck. So let's see what we get.
Reagan, Tino mentioned the point of Man City, and I completely forgot Celtic Sugar beat them at Parkhead a few seasons ago. They got a point out of that game at finished for each as well. And also they beat Man City and Chelsea in pre-season. Now, I know what people's going to comment, and obviously I've had people saying that after the game, well, it's only pre-season. It doesn't really matter because, it's still Chelsea and Man City. I mean, let's be honest, Man City and Chelsea should never be in the same park as Celtic in terms of the financial kind of like goal. But as I said, one-off games, anything could happen. And that's the same tonight as well.
I think if Aston Villa play well, then unfortunately they'll go. The probability is they're going to win, but hopefully Celtic can put the best possible fight up and try and get in the win areas they don't want to be in. I think Junior, the right back, was playing centre back on Sundays. Hopefully he's playing it centre back again, and then that hopefully means that people like Adamida and Nicholas and Rio Atai can get in behind. I just want to ask Tino then, see in terms of Trusty, I know there's been a few questions about Trusty, but this is a big night for him as well then, because Scales has not played for a few games as well, Tino. So I think it's important that he kind of leads for the front as well, Trusty.
It's going to be interesting there, actually. So it will most likely be Scales at left centre-half and Trusty at right centre-half. And I actually think it's a game that will probably be suited to Liam Scales. Liam Scales is at his very best when it's backs to the wall type defending, when you're up against it and you need to win your tackles, clear your lines, win your headers, win your set pieces. I think that's what Scales is really, really good at. So I've no concerns there. I think Scales would do a good job on that side of things. But the other part of the game is when you do regain possession and you're looking to start an attack, that's where Trusty should really be able to step up. He, I think, was brought as a ball-playing centre-half, and I think he'll want to prove that again and take the responsibility. There was a lot of talk after the Dundee game. He had a really poor game against Dundee, and Simon Murray really, got on about him that night. And there was lots of talk about, he should be dropped for the Kilmarnock game on the Saturday night. And I was so keen that the manager didn't drop him, because I think that's the easy and the lazy way out. The real challenge is to say, we've lost Reagan just there, Michael. Hopefully he comes back on. The real challenge is to play him in the next game and challenge him to prove that the Dundee game was a one-off. And I thought Austin Trusty was very good against Dundee, and then I thought he followed it up with a very decent performance against Young Boys. So I'm glad to see him keep his position. And yeah, because of Carter Vickers missing tonight, it means it'll be him and Liam Scales. So again, another interesting element of the game. There's so many kind of sub-stories, subplots, isn't there? Adam Ida up top, Arnie Engels continuing to do his thing, Nicholas Kuhn looking to shine in the centre-half position. So lots of interesting things. Nice of you to join us again, Regan. Thought we'd lost you.
No, I'm back. I just had to go and do something there. Sorry, guys.
Fair enough. Sorry if I was boring you.
maybe knows the score before the game even starts. Maybe that's why he was away. But Regan made a comment earlier on, Tino, about Celtic's been lucky in a good way in terms of having brilliant goalkeepers as well. Obviously, Celtic's got Schmeichel as well at the moment, and he's going to be important. He's a big time player. And I thought it was a nice moment up after the Celtic game against Young Boys, where Joe Hart interviewed him on the telly. So you don't see that kind of like every day, goalkeeper. But in terms of that, Tino, that obviously the Joe Hart, Craig Gordon, Akaborok, and you could go even further back than Packy Bonner and stuff like that. But how important is it to have a goalkeeper? Because obviously that the team begins, the team begins with him, and especially kind of like in European games, you've got to concentrate from 90 minutes. In terms of like the Premiership, it's hard to, it's easy just to switch off, obviously, but in games like this, you've got to be concentrated for 90 minutes, especially away from home as well.
Yeah, the goalie position is massively important for Celtic. And actually, someone else pointed this out, but it's a great point about in recent years, anytime Celtic have progressed in Europe, they've had a really solid goalkeeper as part of that. Fraser Foster played a massive part under Lenny when we were doing good things there. Big game against Barcelona, for example. I think Artur Boric was a guy that done it for Gordon Strachan. You know, you need these figures to really step up, and I think Kasper Schmeichel's absolutely in the same bracket. He's such an important part of the team, and as you rightly say, at Celtic, particularly domestically, particularly at home games domestically, you could have nothing to do for 90 minutes and then have to pull one out the top corner or make a brave save. But on a night like tonight, I think Kasper Schmeichel will be busy. But he's been here and done that. He'll have played at Villa Park a number of times. I think his dad played at Villa for a spell, if I've remembered correctly. I think he might have had a short spell there. So he'll have been about Villa Park. This won't be strange to him. It won't be an environment that intimidates him. And I think that confidence will go through his teammates. He'll have been spending this week at Lennoxtown telling the players what to expect and how to approach this. And Villa Park's a big stadium. It's an atmospheric stadium. Traditionally, there used to always be a lot of FA Cup semi-finals played at Villa Park, for example. It's a place for big nights, and I think this could be a big night, but you've got to keep cool heads on big nights like this, and I think that's where Schmeichel, amongst others, will pass on all his experience to his teammates.
I was just going to ask you that, Tino, because Michael often talks about on a Friday about teams go to Celtic Park and park 10 buses. And see, the big thing for me, like, I know Celtic like to play with like attacking players and try and play on the front foot. But I think it's important. Let's see when you see like your young boys last week, they came to Celtic Park and they tried to waste a bit of time. I think at some points in the match as well, Tino, it's about time that we actually done a bit of that as well, because we're not going to play great football for 90 minutes against a team like Aston Villa.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need to be streetwise on a night like tonight, and I don't mean all the way down the dark road that Atletico Madrid go down in terms of the dark arts and the off-the-ball stuff and the play antics. That's not Celtic. I wouldn't ever want to see that. But sometimes just running the clock, taking a wee bit more time over free kicks, taking your fouls when they sometimes you can accuse Celtic players of being too honest. You know, when you feel contact in the box, I think that's okay to go down, or if you feel it in the middle of the park or whatever. I just think being a wee bit more streetwise. Callum McGregor made a good point. He was interviewed after last week at Young Boys, and he said this is a game last year that we draw or lose. He feels that the team are maturing in Europe, and I agree with that. I think there's, as I say, there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of guys in that Celtic side who have now played a lot of European football. We've been Champions League for the last 3 seasons, I think now, including this one. So there's big experiences for players. You know, they've gone and played the Real Madrids and, you know, whoever else, Leverkusens, and, you know, lots of kind of very, very good European sides. And I think you can't go to those games and not learn. Even though you're getting beaten, there's some painful experiences. You learn something and you learn how to be a wee bit more streetwise and a bit more savvy. So I think, Celtic need to do a bit of that tonight, Regan. And, you know, the hope is that you're getting into the latter stages still very much in the game, maybe a goal in it either way, or maybe drawn or whatever it might be, and get into the final phase with a real chance of going and winning, because Villa themselves, I think they sit in 9th place at the moment. They will absolutely want to get into that top 8 to save themselves an extra round. And at one point, depending on how it's going, they'll need to go for it. And that could leave gaps in at the back. I think that could really play into our hands.
I know that, Reagan, that everybody's talking about Villa Park's got a brilliant atmosphere and all that kind of thing. But I don't think that will face Celtic, because obviously Celtic Park is full every week. And the away games as well. I mean, you just have to look at Dundee and that was a wet Wednesday night, I think it was. And both sides were full. And then they went away to Borussia Dortmund, and we all know what happened there. Brilliant atmosphere. So I don't think the atmosphere is going to affect Celtic in any kind of way tonight.
No, I don't think it will, because I think like you said, they've been so used to it time after time. But I think it's important that as much as like the big atmosphere, I think that night in Dortmund actually taught the players a lot of lessons, because I remember on the TV, Michael, they were saying, does Brendan Rodgers' style work in Europe? Does things working? Because Brendan Rodgers, up until this season, had a very bad record in Europe. So I think he's now proven the doubters wrong. I don't know if you agree, Tino, but I think that night away in Bergamo against Atalanta was a big night, because see, if you look at Atalanta, Tino, they're scoring a lot of goals. I think in the last Champions League match, they scored 4 or 5, and then the match before that they scored 2 goals against Real Madrid. So they're a very good team.
They're a very decent side, and I actually think the Atalanta game was certainly at the time the most important game in the group for Celtic, because it could have gone one or two ways. If you go and lose 7 goals to Dortmund or anybody, confidence is low. Everyone's out to get you in the press back home. In fact, across Europe, everyone's out to get you. I don't know if you were talking about TalkSport or another channel earlier on, Michael, but some other channels were out to get Celtic.
Maybe.
And Brendan Rodgers had a real job to do at that point to pick up the dressing room, because those players will have been feeling so flat, particularly because they went into the Dortmund game full of confidence. You know, we were playing really well at that time in the season. Confidence was high amongst everyone, fans, players alike. And then we get such a humiliating experience. That's what it was. There's no dressing up. It was such a humbling experience. So to respond in the way we did against that, to your point, Regan, a really, really good Atalanta side. They scored goals against everybody, but they didn't score against us. You know, first and foremost, we've kept the clean sheet. We've managed to get the point. And it wasn't, yes, it was a fairly defensive display by Celtic, but it wasn't backs to the wall. It wasn't parking the bus. It was being disciplined and trying to break when the opportunity, you know, presented itself. And I thought the players came away with that one, from that one, with real credit. And I think that's what really kind of reignited the campaign, kick-started it again. You know, after the Dortmund game, you need to press reset and start again, even though you'd already won against Bratislava. And I think by doing so against Atalanta, Celtic then kicked on and picked up the various points, which has got us to where we are now. So we're on 12 points, aren't we? And I think for Celtic, based on everything around us and the financial benefits that various other clubs have, Celtic deserve real credit to be sitting on 12 points after 7 games. And we could add to that again tonight. Hopefully we do.
Regan, just come back to that. You know, I remember the season, did Celtic not have 9 points in the Champions League and still never qualified?
Yeah.
I think they beat you. Yeah, it was the big game I can remember that night, and Celtic should have beat Juventus, but we picked up a point there as well. I want to ask you about the group stage as well, guys, but I wanted to ask you as well that going back to the horrible night for you guys in Dortmund, do you feel as though that when you get a big name in the Champions League or the Europa League or even maybe the Conference League or whatever, do you feel as though that you would prefer to have them right at the beginning of the competition than the middle or the end? Because I'll tell you why, Regan. Because I think it was the second game in, and obviously you would like to have them first. Don't get me wrong, but second was a bonus. But then that showed you what to do in the other games. So, and I suppose like this league format helped with that as well.
I think it did, because I think the fact that we've got, I'm not going to say very good fixtures, but favourable fixtures that we can look at and go, right, well, this is an opportunity for us. And I'm sure Brendan Rodgers, when he sat back and looked at it, thought, right, this is a real opportunity for this group of players. And I think, I don't know if you guys agree, but I feel like in previous Champions League campaigns or Europa League campaigns, that night against Dortmund might have thrown some Celtic teams, like they might have just crumbled and go on to the next one against Atalanta, get beat, and then it's an uphill task. But I'm glad that Brendan Rodgers and the coaching staff really said to the players, forget about it, we've got a real opportunity. And I think as well, like you said, I think because we've got this new format, it's got new opportunities, and it's brought teams like Celtic closer to that. But then I don't know if you agree, Michael Tino, but then if you look at teams like Manchester City and PSG, they need to win tonight, and I think 2 of these clubs actually wanted a change in the Champions League, and they might be slightly regretting doing that, because they have got the change, but they might not make it into the top 24.
Well,
Yeah.
I was sorry, Tino.
You go, Michael.
No, I was just going to say it's weird how we spoke about financial the aspects earlier on, and Brendan Rodgers alluded that to his press conference yesterday. But as Reagan says, this league's benefit to teams like Celtic and all the rest. But it's weird how it's worked out because bigger teams and bigger financial like Man City. Rhythm League to win tonight, but in terms of like Celtic, well, Celtic fans can sit back. Will be obviously be two eyes in the game because you still want to win the game. But it's weird how it's kind of worked out like that, because you would think Man City would steamroller teams no matter how big the league is.
Yeah, I just think the format's been a real breath of fresh air. I think it's been brilliant, and it's definitely redressed the balance and allowed teams like Celtic to compete. And I don't have any great sympathy for a PSG or a Man City or any of those kind of clubs. They've had it all their own way for a long time. And the previous format where it's 6 games, but it's home and away, and the seeding, it makes it very tough. If Celtic go into that as a pot 3 or a pot 4 team, it means that you're get real challenges to pick up points against any of the pot 1 and 2s, and you might scrape about the pot 3 and 4s. It's very hard to qualify. Whereas this new format with the 8 games, fairly random, 4 home, 4 away, but not against the same sides, I think it's just really freshened up, and we've seen some really interesting, high-scoring games. I think even last week was Barcelona beat Benfica 5-4 in Benfica.
Yeah,
and actually,
that was a good game.
I thought to an extent Benfica were robbed. I thought there was some really harsh penalties against them. I thought they should have got a penalty themselves at the end. All these things, but enjoyable to watch. And teams, excuse me, aren't as worried about we'll play it cagey away from home and we'll come back and get the job done back at home. I think teams are just going for it to an extent. Everyone's just going hell for leather, and it's been really exciting to see. And I think Celtic, as I say, have really benefited from that. Reagan's right. We definitely get a favourable draw. And I think we get favourable fixtures within the draw in terms of when the games are played and home and away. It's good to start against Bratislava. That gives you confidence to get 3 points on the board. You could argue that you might not want Dortmund till later on in the section, but you've got to take the rough with the smooth and all that stuff. So there's ups and downs across the board. But I really like the random nature of the league. I think it just makes for exciting stuff. And it's up to Man City and PSG and others like them to prove that they can handle, different challenges and different teams coming at them in different ways. And so far, they've not handled it, and that's their problem, and we'll see what they do tonight. But for Celtic to qualify in this new refreshed format, it's been great to see, and I'm just really excited. I'm excited for tonight, I really am. I'm really looking forward to this one, but I'm also excited to see what the next round throws up and who we get there.
Reagan, I don't think we've spoke about it on the show when me and you've been on, but in terms of the format, do you like the format?
I think the format's been great, Michael. I think it's been really refreshing. I think what Tino was saying there was spot on, because I think it's really helped Celtic progress, because I think it really makes a difference. Because see, you get a Barcelona in pot 1 and a Bayer Leverkusen in pot 2, then you're struggling to really get a stranglehold in anything, because these teams are flying in their respective leagues, and then you're really up against it and nobody really expects. So then you're kind of hoping that the pot 3 team is like a Rosenborg or a Anderlecht or somebody you can battle for Europa League. So I think it really opens it up now for teams like Celtic and Club Brugge as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's brilliant, and obviously, Tino uses a good word of mine, randomness. Because at first I was trying to get my head around that, but not the word randomness. By the way, I did go to school, but that the teams don't play each other, and they don't play home and away. Something a bit different, and I wish no, I wish that SFA would think out the box sometimes and do random things on our game in Scotland, just to make it more kind of like exciting as well.
I think it's exciting enough. I think there's too many kind of real changes coming in. I remember hearing Ange recently talk about, they were saying about a sin bin in football, and I don't think that's a good thing, because I think that would lead to like time waste. And if someone went in the sin bin for 10 minutes, people would just slow the game down and different things. So I don't think too much random. Regan, I don't know if you've got the team there. Have you got the news for us? You got it?
Yeah, I've got the team, Tino.
Go for it. What we're looking at.
I've got the team. We're looking at Schmeichel, Johnston, Trusty, Scales, Taylor, McGregor, Rio Hatate, Nicholas, Yang, and Ida. Arnie Engels is playing the midfield as well. So I think that's a team, Tino, that I basically expected Celtic to play.
Yeah, I think it's a team a lot would have predicted. We predicted that very team on our weekly show, which we done last night. So it's the 4-3-3 that we all know. The big calls would be Trusty and Scales together at centre back. It would be keeping the three of McGregor, Hatate, and Engels in the midfield. And it's a huge night for Adam Ida and Yang, and for different reasons, Nicholas Kuhn. So that's your front three. What do you make it, Michael? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's to be expected, get that team in, but obviously because of the suspendings and obviously Kyogo away and all that, I don't think Rodgers could have done anything different. But maybe what I would say was, if Celtic wasn't in the was in a position to make that, they still had to qualify. As I say early on in the show, I think you would see 1 or 2 wee tweaks in the team as well. But no, I mean, that was the team I was expecting, and that, you know. But as you say, Tino, it's a big night for Ada, especially maybe to prove to him, prove to maybe some Celtic fans, because obviously, guys, you know as well that you can get some doubting Toms in football. Maybe Tom's not the right word, but I can't remember. Yeah, it's a Wednesday night, so it's been a busy week already. But yeah, it's a big week. It's a big night for him. Big night for the to prove his doubters kind of wrong a wee bit, you would say.
Yeah, but it's a massive night for Adam Ida, and just on that, then there's very little backup on the bench if Ida doesn't make it. I'll run through the subs, lads, as well, just for interest, and we'll see what you think. But Sinisalo and Bain are the backup goalies. Then you've got Louis Palmer, Luke McCowan, Mike Nawrocki, and we rarely, if ever, see Nawrocki play. Paulo Bernardo, Adam Montgomery, Dane Murray, young centre half, Daniel Cummins, the B team striker, and Tony Ralston. It's pretty limited, and I suppose even just from last week, if you take out Kyogo and Maeda, and Carter Vickers and Alex Baye, there's 4 guys that you don't even have available tonight. So, Regan, what do you make of the bench? It's a wee bit light, isn't it?
It's a wee bit light, and also it shows to me that there's still work to be done in the transfer market. There's still work to be done. There's still work to get a centre forward in. I know Brendan Rodgers is talking about a winger, but I did find that weird yesterday, Tino, because I remember that famous quote in 2018 when Brendan Rodgers said Celtic got too many wingers.
Too many.
I want to ask you guys as well about Bernardo. That's a weird one, because obviously, like he came in last year, scored an important goal for Celtic, but every time this season, I think maybe he's only started maybe twice. Am I right in saying? But we saw him come off the bench. And I suppose, like in European nights like this, Reagan, you would rather him do the opposite. You would rather him start the game and come off with 50 minutes to go. But so what do you make of that? Do you think it's a weird move by Rodgers not to start him every week? Because it reminds me of well, not that he's a Australian, but Tom Rogic, in terms of it's got a good dig outside the box, and he can score a big goal for you at big time. But I get feel as though it's weird for him not to start a game for Celtic, especially tonight.
I think in terms of Bernardo, I think he's found himself very unfortunate, but I think Brendan Rodgers likes Rio as well, and he likes Arne Engels. So every time that he's played this season, he's tend to choose those guys, and hopefully this is a game that Arne Engels proves everybody to know that's why Celtic spend that money, and then they can spend that money more regular because they can prove, right, well, here's proof that if you spend that money, then you get that reward.
Yeah, I love Arne Engels. I actually think he's potentially my favourite player amongst the squad just now, because I think you can see that he's got the potential to be something really special. But I think at the moment he's actually, early days for Celtic, but still doing pretty well. He's got a fair number of goals and assists so far. He only turned 21 in recent months after signing for Celtic. And there's always, we touched on this at the start of the show, there's always pressure at a club like Celtic. But I think he's in a really good place, in a really good environment, under a really good coach to develop. And I just like everything he does. He missed that penalty last week, and we were all gutted, just before half-time. But he didn't let it faze him. He picked himself up, and he started the second half, and he got shots on goal, and he created a couple of assists. And then eventually he came off on the hour mark. I think he picked up a niggle. I think, again, it's a huge night for him tonight. But, do you know what? I don't know if you agree, lads, but there's always somebody in the Celtic world that wants to put a player down, even when things are going great. Generally speaking, we're going great just now. We've qualified. We've won the League Cup. We're 10 clear in the league at the moment. Some people always just need somebody to get on it, and at times it's felt like it's Arne Engels or it's Greg Taylor. How about we just don't get on at anybody and we just support the guys that are there, wearing a Celtic shirt? And I'd love to see everyone, most folk are behind Arne Engels, but I just love to see him really turn it on tonight and win over the last few detractors, because I think he's a brilliant young talent.
Tino, I just want to ask you as well, because James Forrest is out, you've got obviously Maida and stuff like that. It's a big night for Yang, because he's never been really trusted in a big game, and this is a big match for him.
So I don't know if you guys watch your show much over at the Celtic Exchange, but I'm a big Yang fan. I've said it a lot, and I've had a lot of grief in the comments for it. And I get that as well, because he's only young as well. He's only 22, but I think he's shown enough in glimpses for me to convince me that there's a good player in there. But he does need to do it on a more consistent basis. He needs to add goals and assists to his game, and he needs to, like others, do it on a night like tonight. It's one thing doing it at Celtic Park against a lesser light. At Celtic, to be a success, you need to step up on a big European night and show that you've got the character. It's not about you having the ability to play for Celtic, because I think most, if not all, the guys in the squad have got plenty of ability, but it's not only about that at Celtic. You've got to have the mindset, the mentality, the character to do what you need to do to succeed here. So in the same way that I just said for Engels, I would love Yang to have a big night tonight and prove a point and prove that he's got a future here at Celtic, because we've just signed a superstar winger in the shape of Jota, and I think we're still in for another winger as the rumours. So it's a real test right now for the guys like Yang and Palmer to show they belong here, and you won't get a better opportunity than Champions League at Villa Park to show that. So big night for Yang, big night for them all.
Regan, talk to me about Maida. I mean, how big a loss is that for Celtic tonight? And listen, I know VR wasn't in the game. I wasn't a red card, but obviously VR was in the game now, and obviously he had to go a bit of maybe a Russell blood to the head as well. But how big a miss would he be for Celtic tonight?
I think it's a big miss, because he brings the intensity to the whole team. That running up and down really brings on his teammates, but also against top quality opposition like Aston Villa, you need people chasing them. If you've got somebody that's not chasing back or not making sure that they're in the correct position, that could be the key to the game. I mean, I don't want to harp on about it, but you look back to the Rangers and Man U game last week. Rangers could have got a point against Man U if Jeff did just switches on. So it's so important that Celtic just switch on tonight. Everybody switched on, and we just make sure that nothing goes wrong, and we also make sure that everybody's in tandem, so that because there's obviously going to be points where Celtic are going to be under pressure, so it's about coping with that well.
Yeah, the pressure will be on, and my big disappointment about tonight is the lack of Daizen Maeda, because I've said this line a few times recently. The best of Celtic includes Daizen Maeda. At this moment in time, he's part of our best 11, and it is a shame. Carter Vickers too, actually. It's a shame that you then go to Aston Villa without having your very best side. So it's not to make excuses. You know, we are where we are, and we've got a pretty decent 11 out there, and good luck to the boys. But it would have been nice to have Dies Maeda, because he's such a huge part of how we play. He's such a unique footballer, and that engine he's got to, you know, be up crossing it into the box 1 minute or scoring a goal, and then back, you know, tackling at his own corner flag the next. He's such an incredible and unique player. I think we'll all miss Dies Maeda's madness when he goes. He's got a mad brand of football, but it'll be a loss tonight, and that just means the challenge is there for others to step in.
I suppose the great thing on Dies Maeda, because he's only banned for 2 matches, so that means that he's available for the potential second leg at home of the playoff.
Regan and Tino, I just want to ask you very quickly before we go, because we've only got a few minutes left as well. Do you think it's a worrying time for Celtic fans? Carter Vickers injured again. I know Roger said yesterday that it'll be okay for Sunday's game against Motherwell, or maybe he's not telling us a full story, I'm not sure. But do you think it's a bit concerning why he's missing about 4 or 5 games this season due to injury? I know he wasn't playing at Kamal because of the park and all that, but do you think it's a concern?
I'll let you lead, Regan. What do you think?
I think it definitely is a concern, but that's the thing for me. I quite like Stephen Welsh, and see, I quite enjoyed him coming in if Carl Vickers was injured. I don't know about you, Tino, but do you think then Brendan Rodgers actually says to Mike, right, well, you need to be here until the end of the season? But that's pretty hard on a player, Tino, because so psychologically he must be going to training and going, knowing he's not going to play, but also if you get 1 or 2 injuries there, it can be very difficult, and it's very difficult to say we're in the Scottish Cup semi-final. It's very difficult to throw Dane Murray in there.
Yeah, I think for any football manager, Brendan Rodgers or otherwise, it's never a problem keeping your first 11 happy. They're all happy because they get the nod. It's the guys who are on the bench, or not even in the bench, or guys who are just making the squad, but not getting any minutes. They're the guys that are potentially most disruptive. I do remember him speaking quite recently, and he was talking about guys who had been on the periphery. You know, I think of guys like Kobayashi and a few others that have now moved on. And he says, to their absolute credit, they've been nothing but professional. But for a manager at Celtic, you want to work with a fairly tight group. You can't work with 30-man squads and try and potentially, you know, keep players at their max. So I think it's hard to juggle that, and that's the challenge. And a guy like Nawrocki, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear his future lies elsewhere. But while you've got Carter Vickers not 100% fit, while you've got Stephen Welsh out at, is it Mechelen in Belgium on loan, you need to keep these guys about. And it's up to Nawrocki, and I've no doubt that he'll be doing it, but it's up to him to stay fit and available on the off chance, and it is an off chance, that he gets the nod. That's just the life of a footballer. And Lagerbielke's, he's on loan as well. He's out the picture too. So it's just life. You know, Nawrocki will move on at some point. But I'd like to think, and I'm led to believe, he's acting very professionally. So tough as it is, it's just a job. He's probably been pretty well paid for it in the meantime. So I'm sure he's doing okay.
So thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to Regan. Thanks to Tino for the Celtic Exchange podcast. We'll be back at 10 for the post-match reaction show between Aston Villa and Celtic in the Champions League.
Celtic in the Champions League, with all the build-up and reaction on Independence Live.